Welcome back. I'm going to start exactly where I stopped from. This is part 2 of A Day of Joy for the Remnant. We're looking at verse 11, and I just got finished talking about how God will take away out of the midst of them that rejoice in thy pride. And this kind of reminds me of the idea that when judgment comes upon Israel and upon the Gentiles, that he's going to remove the goats from among the sheep, or vice versa. I don't remember exactly which way it was, but the idea is that only God can judge in that matter, being able to take the tares from the wheat or the goat from the sheep. And so this is what's going to happen in this day of the Lord. And thou shalt no more be haughty because of my holy mountain. The idea that because they lived in this holy mountain, they thought that they were some kind of special because they lived close to Jerusalem, close to the temple, and that their vicinity, the vicinity in which they live by the temple, made them some kind of holy and some kind of special because of that. So, they were wrong. And that haughtiness, was something that God does not tolerate. And he wanted to obliterate that. And I kind of don't like people with proud looks and always talking about what they have, where they from, and, where they came from. And it's a sense of pride that I have no time for. I really don't. I can never tolerate it. And it to me is kind of disgusting. But who am I? God is the one who's truly disgusted at pride. Anyone who thinks themselves better than anybody else, they need to take another look. They're just who they are, and God will put you down in a minute. Will bring you down, and if you're that high, the higher you are, the harder it is when you hit that ground. So I kind of remind myself of that idea, to always keep myself abased, always keep myself grounded, because when you fall at the ground, you're not going to hurt or break anything. But when you are high and elevated, that fall can be a devastating one. And so I try to be very humble, try to be humble. And so verse 12 says, I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Lord. Now, this verse kind of reminds me of Psalms 51, verse 17. Let's go to that real quick. And when I think about Psalm 51, it is actually a perfect parallel psalm to go with this particular Sunday school lesson. I wish I could just read the entire thing. It would just make sense. But Psalms 51 verse 17 says, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. O God, thou wilt not despise. And so we see in verse 12 that this is what God is leaving in the midst of this land in Jerusalem. He's leaving an afflicted and poor people. And this is what he means, that, this is what it's got to be. And I'm going to cause it to be this way because this is what I actually love. I love the sacrifices of a broken spirit, because it means that you are as abased as possibly can be. You're not high-minded and heady. You're not holier than thou, holier than your brethren, that you can't do nothing for them, and that your conversation is going to be pure. And that goes back to verse 9, talking about how he's going to turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one consent. Not just to do that, but to behave correctly in their day-to-day life with their neighbors. And so it says, verse 13, the remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity, nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth. For they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. And so you see the change of their behavior because of what God has grooved them into. He has put down the fist so hard on sin that there's no other way to quantify where you would have been had you not turned to the Lord in the time that you did. And it's a truly humbling thing to always remind yourself where you were and look at, like, gauge where you were and people that were with you in those days. And then years later, you see those same people and they're in terrible condition. I know people that I came up with that they became stick-up kids, that they become drug dealers, that they went to jail, that some even died, they passed away, and some even got diseases like AIDS, and it's a whole lot of things. And then when you think about how God snatched you out of that, now I'm fortunate. Not everybody is, but I'm fortunate that I was snatched out of it. And then for me to see that happen, it just makes me that more grateful, that more humbled. And so I believe that's what verse 13 is really conveying there. There's another element of the joy that the remnant is going to enjoy. I'm having some technical difficulties with my camera, so I may have to go ahead and do a part 3. These are short videos, so I'm going to cut it off and try and do another video. Stay tuned for part 3.